I'm here with Ryan Large, the manager responsible for the Licensing Automation System Renewal Project. First of all, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it. So I have a ton of questions from anglers and hunters about this licensing renewal project and the proposal that's been posted. So we're going to dive right into it. Can you quickly give me a rundown of the proposal as it relates specifically to game seals in Ontario?
Yeah, sure. So, game seals have been around since, the, early to mid 1970s, and, they serve as a very important allocation perspective. And, the proposal is really about trying to increase access to, both our services that we provide, but also to really make it easier for, hunters to be able to acquire their tags. And, that's why we're really proposing to move this way. So, rather than having game seals, we're looking at using tags to move to the future. And, while tags themselves really remain as a very important, allocation perspective, tags would still need to be notched out, by the hunter, and they'd only need to be attached to a harvested animal, when the hunter's not in proximity to the harvest itself. And really, it would be up to the responsibility of the hunter to be able to, ensure that tags stay legible. And, tags, we're looking at having tags printed from various opportunities through the new licensing system, but that being said, they can be printed in 3 different ways. A hunter can print it out based on their home computer. They can still visit one of the 900 license issuers distributed across Ontario, or they can still visit a participating Service Ontario that provides MNRF services, which is about 66 across Ontario as well.
Awesome. Okay, well, this isn't the first time that we've had such a significant and fundamental change to our licensing system. Yeah. And one of the main concerns that we still hear today, and one of the main concerns that we heard during the last, iteration of the licensing system, was related to the security of personal information when it crosses the border into the United States.
Right, yeah.
So we have a new vendor, but it's also a US-based vendor. So how do you respond to concerned anglers and hunters that are concerned about the security of their private information? And how is this system going to safeguard that information?
Well, as you know, Ontario has many different types of privacy regulations associated to, various proposals that we go to acquire service delivery. And one of the things that we've done in this new system is to really make sure that we're meeting the objective of privacy. And with that, based on the rigorous controls that we put forward in our request for proposal, the vendor is obligated to meet those. And throughout this whole process, we've been meeting with various privacy experts to ensure that, the services that are delivered are still going to meet the intentions of Ontarians from a privacy information perspective.
Okay, so because Ontario has, Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act,
yes,
even a US-based vendor is required to follow that.
They're still required to uphold the same laws as in which Ontario has.
Fair enough. Now, one of the biggest changes being proposed, as you mentioned, would give hunters the opportunity to print out their own tags at home rather than having to go into a Service Ontario or a license issuer. Will hunters be paying the same cost per transaction, that $2 service fee that is a few years old at this point? Will they still be paying that $2 transaction fee?
So the intention is that the $2 fee that was implemented in 2014, it's still going to be around, and the nominal fee is applied to all new, replacement, or renewed outdoor cards, as well as hunting and fishing licenses, including the elk draw entry. And then under the new proposal, all licensed transactions will continue to incur that $2 fee, whether or not a transaction has been conducted at in-home perspective or through a license issue or a Service Ontario location. And however, with that said, if a person does choose to reprint their license through the new system and needs to acquire a new license summary, for example, based on the proposal, in that instance, they won't be charged a $2 fee.
Okay, so when the $2 service fee was initially implemented, we were told that it was specifically to cover the cost of that transaction through the licensing system. Presumably, part of the reason that we're sort of revamping the system is to save money. So is that transaction still going to cost roughly $2? And if not, why wouldn't the fee either be eliminated or reduced?
So like I said earlier, the $2 service fee, it's going to remain. And what it's really there for is to cover off administrative costs of the transaction. And the $2 and the new system, I guess, underneath the proposal, it'll have many different new features that aren't currently within the new system. And one of those things that'll do is, what it will do is really enable various types of customer service improvements and, really allow for more convenient access to MNRF services licenses for both anglers and hunters. And based on the improvements in the new system, anglers and hunters will have the opportunity to view their past transactions through their customer profile, which will be something that'll be new, and they'll be able to view their previous big game draw results, which will be something that is new as well. Okay. And over and above that, the proposal will be providing additional choices for hunters and anglers to maintain a paper license summary, as well as the opportunity, based on the proposal, to have a digital license summary maintained on a hunter angler's smartphone device. Okay. So over and above that perspective as well, for example, if I lost my license summary, I could now go into the system using my home computer to actually go in and reprint a new license summary, which that is not currently available. You'd have to go into a license issuer to do that, for example, right? Or a Service Ontario location.
Pay a fee, right, to have it replaced,
and pay a fee to have that replaced. Yeah.
Okay, so right now, our licenses, tags, our game seals, they come in a variety of different formats and sizes depending on what you're hunting, where you purchased it, and whether or not you applied to the draw. So what will that variety of licenses, tags, and game seals be replaced with under this new proposal?
Right, so the proposed change based on the existing process is, there's many different formats of hunting and fishing licenses that have to be carried by, a hunter angler when they're undertaking their resources.
You appreciate where we're coming from.
I know exactly where you're coming from. And with that, we're looking at having the license summary be maintained as the source document. Of course, there's going to be a game tag that's going to accompany, but the license summary will contain all of the individual licenses that a hunter or angler has purchased. So now they're only going to have one document in possession rather than the multiple types that are currently out in circulation. So it also allows for standardization of what's contained on that rather than a hunter or angler having to have an e-license opportunity that they have to maintain on person, or the various different types of licenses that get provided through license issuers or a current process through mail and fulfillment.
So I personally know a lot of people that have been seeking that sort of additional convenience. But what about people that don't have a computer at home or a printer at home, or people who don't have a smartphone or something like that? What options exist for them?
Well, an angler hunter can still go into one of the 900 or so license issuers that are distributed across the province, or they can go into one of the 66 Service Ontario locations that provide MNRF services. And then over and above that, there's always the opportunity for a person to visit a public library to be able to print out their summary by using those potential services that are available as well.
Or a friend's computer.
Or a friend's computer or anything else, yeah.
So under these changes, what would I need to carry on my person when I'm hunting?
So there'd still be the requirement to maintain an outdoors card. You'd have to maintain your license summary, which would detail all the necessary pieces about, what wildlife management unit you can hunt in, other types of opportunities such as, if a license summary was maintained on person, they could also, under the proposal, maintain it on their smartphone device as well. So giving the client the option as well as the license tag that was issued.
Okay, so you mentioned the license summary a few times now. Can you just give me a quick summary of what kind of features would be on that license summary?
Sure. So the license summary itself would maintain different information about a hunter's relevant personal information such as name, outdoors card number, address, those kind of details. It would list all of the licenses that are valid that were purchased. So the hunter or angler can go and undertake those resource activities, as well as validation information where applicable. And also one thing that it's going to include is going to be a digital thumbprint or a QR code that an enforcement officer can use to scan to have a security validation code on it. Okay,
so how would that QR code system work, say, in remote areas in Northern Ontario or out in the bush in the middle of nowhere, for instance?
So the officer, him or herself, would take their smartphone device and scan the code. You won't have to be connected to a mobile network to be able to actually do it. So the information that would be contained within the code, the officer would scan it and be able to tell that the information contained on the license summary is not fraudulent and legitimate.
Oh, okay, perfect. So you mentioned, reprinting the license summary and things like that a couple times. So if I buy for instance, my small game license and my turkey license early in the year for spring turkey season, I print out that license summary. That's all it has on it. What happens later on in the year when I apply to the deer draw, for instance, or the moose
Right.
draw? What do I do there?
So you'd still have to have an updated license summary. So you'd have to go into the system once you complete your transaction, inquire whatever license. The summary itself is going to maintain the necessary licenses on the license summary itself. So you'd have to go to the system, either print it or download it to your mobile device if under the proposal at hand, or you can still get a copy from a licensed issuer or Service Ontario location to be able to be valid to undertake your resource use.
And as it stands, the proposal is for those reprints to be free,
Right.
correct?
That's
Okay,
correct.
perfect. So if I reprint a license summary, am I legally obligated to destroy the previous one, or?
It's always recommended that your past license summary paper document would be destroyed, but just back onto that point you just talked about with whether or not it would be free all the time. The perspective of it at License Issuers or Service Ontario being free, those details are still under discussion.
Okay.
But definitely from if you or I were to go to my home computer and do it, then that would be a free.
So a self-serve thing? It would
Yes,
still be free.
self-serve.
Okay.
That's
So what happens if I don't have my latest or most up-to-date license summary on me? What happens then?
So in that scenario, as long as you have your old license summary document that includes the type of activity that you're participating in at the time, there shouldn't be a problem. So I'll give you an example. If the older license summary was printed before you purchased a small game license or turkey tag and you're turkey hunting, you would be hunting without a license, for example.
Right.
So, but of course, in the early days of the new approach, we'll be working with our hunters to ensure that we're able to help them be in compliance. And as always, MNRF conservation officers will use their discretion.
So there's a bit of a phased-in, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
process? Okay, perfect. So with this proposal, a hunter who successfully harvests a moose or a deer or a bear wouldn't necessarily have something to affix to the animal. So what do they do to notch their tag or invalidate their tag or their license at the time of harvest?
Right, so the requirement to notch or fill out their tag, for example, immediately at the site of harvest would remain very similar.
Okay.
And the difference is not that the successful hunter is with the harvested animal. The hunter would not be required to physically attach the tag to the harvest. So they don't necessarily have to tag as soon as they make their harvest. But as mentioned earlier, it would be responsible of the hunter that the tag is maintained in a readable format. And when the hunter is no longer with the harvest, so for example, the hunter would be required to attach the tag to the animal, confirming that it was hunted legally. So, really at the end of the day, the responsibility is with the hunter to ensure the tag's readable and that they have to still punch their ticket.
Okay, so in terms of punching your ticket, how do you do that if you maintain your license summary and your tags on your smartphone, for instance?
Right. So only license summaries themselves will be available on a digital phone.
Okay.
Tags will continue to be in a physical format, and they'll be printed on regular paper.
Okay.
The exact means of notching or filling out the tag hasn't really been settled yet.
Okay.
We're still in evaluations, but the hunter would be essentially required to, like I said earlier, punch their ticket.
Right, okay, so that regulation remains the same.
Yeah.
Just the physical, the act of doing it might be different?
It still has to be done at the time of harvest.
Okay, perfect. So hunters are, we've heard from a lot of hunters actually, who are very concerned about the durability of a tag or a license summary that is printed on regular paper, particularly given the conditions that some of us face in the field. So to be clear, the tag does not necessarily need to be affixed to the animal at the time of harvest. Is that correct?
Not at the time of harvest.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so can you define, I guess under what conditions would a hunter need to affix the tag to the animal?
So when the hunter's not in possession of the animal.
So can you define exactly what accompanying the animal means in legal terms? What is considered in attendance of an animal at the time of harvest?
Right, so under the proposal, it means the tag holder is able to immediately produce the tag to confirm the validity of the harvest. So for example, if we were at hunt camp together and we had a deer hanging on the game pole, in that scenario, as long as we were with the animal, we wouldn't necessarily need to be tagging
Okay.
it. But if we weren't in the company of the animal, we would be required to tag it and keep that tag in a readable state. And one way of doing this is to use some tag holders that are available that can be purchased through a commercial entity.
Okay, fair enough. So just a scenario-based question. You and I are at camp, or say I'm just at camp. We have a couple deer hanging on the game pole outside.
Right.
what if I wanted to go back out hunting, or what if I wanted to go 100 yards downstream to a creek and fish for a little bit?
Right.
Does that count as being in attendance of the animal?
Right. So, Mark, the key to that is that the tag holder would need to be able to produce the tag if asked. So, if that hunter has gone back, or if you've gone back out hunting, producing the tag wouldn't be possible. So, affixing the tag to the animal would be a requirement.
Okay. What if only one person remains in camp and everybody else has gone back out hunting, and there are a few deer, for instance, hanging on the game pole? Do I have to hold the tags for everybody who has harvested a deer?
So, Mark, under the proposed approach, each harvest belonging to a tag holder who is not in attendance would need to be tagged. So, one person that cannot hold all the tags on behalf of all the other hunters.
Fair enough. So if a CO came by, we'd be able to say, here, I can produce my tag. I can also produce these other tags. That's not legal?
It's not.
Okay, fair enough.
Under the proposal, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned a tag bag earlier. Do you have any other suggestions, including that, on what hunters can do to keep that paper tag from being destroyed in the elements, especially once they've already, for instance, hung a deer in the elements and it's potentially raining, for instance?
Yeah, for sure. So, in other jurisdictions where print your own tags are available, tag holders are commercially available. To help out with the visual, kind of think of, luggage bags, for example, or luggage tags that go onto a bag, or tag holders or sleeves that would protect a tag at all times, except when you have to take the tag out of the tag holder to notch it, like we were talking about before, and it really helps maintain the readability of the tag. So waterproof bags, such as, Ziploc bags, are also frequently used in other jurisdictions. And there's also some inexpensive laminating machines available for home use, which can be used to seal the license summary as well to make it waterproof.
Perfect.
As an option.
So what options would be available to hunters if their license summary and tags are damaged, for example, if it goes through the wash?
So the ministry would be allowing hunters to reprint a license summary, like we already talked about, and then they'll also have the appropriate document security associated to them. And but if a hunter does need to reprint their tag, the hunter may be required to visit a license issue or a Service Ontario location to be able to get a second tag, like we do now. Okay,
perfect. So airlines, or some airlines, probably many nowadays, let people maintain their boarding pass on their smartphone. They just scan the smartphone directly as they check in. Is this type of functionality going to be incorporated into the new system?
Yeah, that's a good analogy, and that's kind of the system we're looking at proposing. So under the proposed new system, hunters will be able to save a copy of their license summary to their smartphone for use in the field. Of course, it would have to remain the responsibility of the hunter to really be able to produce a license summary in a printed or electronic format when requested.
Okay, so if I forgot my smartphone, for instance, back at deer camp while I'm out hunting, and I'm approached by a CO, hunting without a license, essentially.
Essentially.
Right, fair enough. So here's an important question that we've heard from a lot of hunters. One of the dangers of allowing people to print their own tags at home, for instance, is duplication. So what features will exist in this new system to prevent somebody, a hunter, from printing a second or third copy of their tags?
That's a great question, Mark. So, the new system will definitely have restrictions, such as potentially allowing a game seal to be printed only once. And, it'll also have various auditing features that, will allow the ministry to quickly identify when a tag has been printed and by whom. And, over and above that, we'll also have various security codes, such as QR codes, that'll be added to both the summary and the tag, where it'll contain information to make sure that everything is corresponding from a license validity perspective. And also, the ministry is looking into other types of security controls, such as different types of watermarks that'll actually vanish when if somebody chooses to do a photocopy of the original.
Oh, okay, interesting. So, for instance, the license summary, a hunter could print it multiple times throughout the year as they update their licensed products, but a game seal or a tag, whatever we want to call it nowadays, would have some restrictions on it in terms of the number of times that somebody can do it themselves.
That's right.
Okay, perfect. So many hunters are concerned about the potential for increased poaching under this new system. So does any aspect of this proposal increase the risk of poaching and resource abuse?
Yeah, that's another great question. And even now, under the current approach, a hunter could choose to undertake illegal activities. such as failing to seal their harvest. And, you know, really at the end of the day, poaching, you know, it's a resource abuse, and it's really a personal ethical choice by an individual. And, you know, we know most hunters are ethical and very law-abiding individuals who want to protect the resource, and we believe that under the proposal, you know, it won't increase the risk of poaching or resource abuse, but really we've been learning from other jurisdictions who have adopted similar approaches for licensing and tags. Okay,
perfect. So based on the conversations that I've had with hunters, and the OFAH at large has had with hunters and our board of directors and anglers and hunters in general in the broader community, it's clear that there is a lot of uncertainty and confusion about this proposal and how things are going to look once it's finalized. So will the MNRF be hosting any you know, town halls or listening sessions or anything like that to help the public understand and to get some feedback from them?
Yeah, so, you know, we'd like to encourage everybody to really review the proposals at hand, you know, that's posted on the environmental registry, and to provide comments. And we intend to be in a few locations across the province over the next coming weeks. And at these sessions, we'll be sharing information to all hunters and also anglers if they wish to join. And we welcome each person's thoughts and concerns on the proposal as normal process, right? And, you know, since the new system will be implemented, and it won't be implemented until 2019, you know, the ministry is really looking forward to many opportunities during the next year to connect with the hunting community and angling community to explain the new licensing system and approach.
That's great. Well, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mark.